We have a genius outside.
All right, let's get
Jesus Christ.
Sorry. Yeah, we're talking about J-Lo's
ass and football.
and a kid toucher.
That's true.
Ray I'm sorry, Ray. Ray Kurzweil. Sorry about that, sir.
Do you always travel with that many books? Wow. That's like, you're like very studious.
And Barry, the director of
Wow, that's great.
of this movie that
Take a seat right there,
that I
sir.
really liked.
That's great.
That's
Yeah,
Anthony.
yeah. Hi, I'm Anthony. How are you? You're a genius. Oh, my God. This is what I need. The singularity is near.
Oh my God! Does it have to be 800 pages? Can't you say it in?
Oh,
my God! Small font too.
9 steps for living well forever. This guy
Oh
can
my!
write.
Oh my God!
Wow.
I feel like I'm back in high school.
Oh my God.
Hi, Ray. Nice to meet you,
Ray.
sir.
Pleasure.
See, I was actually talking about this recently. Ascend Technologies can optimize the complex logistics of an airport. I was saying that to somebody recently.
Yeah. Jimmy.
Very smart guy. He smells good, too, by the way. Whatever you're wearing, it's very good.
Science.
Yeah, I know. It's Bunsen burner fluid.
I'll lend you some.
Well, you've had quite a life. We got to just
Yeah.
get right into this. The movie, we're talking about Transcendent Man, right?
Yes.
And me and Jimmy saw it and saw a little bit of it, but he was very busy last night doing some other things.
At a modeling party. Oh, my God.
He went to a modeling party,
amazing
Ray.
looking.
And
Yeah.
the movie starts off with you on Steve Allen's show,
Right, that was 1965.
1965.
That's when there was only 3 television stations, the 3 networks.
Right.
Yeah, very easy to run through the channels back then.
And how old were you? We were trying to figure out.
17.
You were 17, and you built a computer.
17 and looked 12.
Yeah, yeah, you looked a lot younger. So you're 17. You built a computer that could actually create music, right?
Right. It was my first pattern recognition project that I would feed in melodies from famous composers. It would figure out the patterns and write original music in the same style.
See, that's amazing, especially back then.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of background in training did you have to be able to do this? Because most people can't just go to Radio Shack and start soldering.
Well, I've always done projects on my own. That's what little I've learned. Learned from my own projects. I think we should actually do that with kids today. Bring entrepreneurship into junior high school and high school.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, look at what college kids have done. A couple of college kids started Facebook
7 years ago today, by the way.
or Google.
Yeah.
And so we should do that in high schools and junior high schools. So I've been doing my own projects since I was 5.
So you just kind of started
Wait,
tinkering?
What were you doing at 5, though?
Well, my parents gave me all these enrichment toys, erector sets, and
And you just started building
real
stuff.
Had this idea if I put them together in just the right way, you could create magical effects. So
See, that's something. I would just be like, oh, look, I made a pulley work. With the little motor and the little hook. I used to love erector
Anthony
sets.
used to take things apart to see how they worked. So.
Yeah, I was always
But Ray was
tinkering.
Ray was just born a genius.
But
I think you're just born a genius.
There's a difference between taking things apart and then leaving them there and actually putting them back together again.
Yeah.
Or changing them for the better.
I would take things apart and then cry until my parents bought me a new one.
And
I did some of that.
the computer on Steve Allen's show there was quite large, sir.
Computers were large back then. I mean, when I went to MIT in '65, a computer took up half a building.
Wow.
So the computer on your belt is 1,000 times more powerful than the computer all of us shared.
And you kind of saw this coming.
I had some sense of this exponential growth. In the early 80s, about 30 years ago, I really noticed that and actually collected data and developed this theory that information technology, like computers, like communication devices, biological technologies, grow exponentially in a very predictable manner.
Now, how was that known early on?
They double every year in power for the same cost.
How'd you figure that out so early on, though, that this was going to happen? This was kind of a formula.
Well, I mean, I had decided at age 5 to be an inventor, and it took me then a couple of decades to realize that the key to being successful was really to get the timing right.
Mm-hmm.
So Mark Zuckerberg did his thing at just the right time. Larry Page and Sergey Brin developed a search engine at just the right time. So I began to study how technology evolves, and I collected a lot of data. And I actually didn't expect that it would be predictable, because the common wisdom is you can't predict the future.
Mm-hmm.
So, but these trends, like the power of a computer per dollar, or bits of memory per dollar, or the number of bits we're moving around on the internet, or the number of bits we move around wirelessly in the air. If you plot these things, they follow very smooth, predictable, exponential trajectories.
Well, you've invented a lot of things, too. One of the more impressive things was the thing that it's like it takes a photo of a page and it reads it to a blind person. And you go, all right, well, blind people could always read Braille. But Stevie Wonder had a good point. He said that's the first time that blind people have ever been able to read their own private information by themselves. Like, if there's paperwork, how does that work, what you invented?
Well, very often technologies that start for the disabled end up helping everyone. The telephone actually was first developed for the deaf as a technology to help the deaf actually see what people are saying, and a little offshoot of that was the telephone. So this technology that I developed in the 70s was actually the first flatbed scanner, which is now ubiquitous, and it was the first character recognition that could recognize any type style. So that's pretty ubiquitous. And it was the first computer that could speak, so speech synthesis. When you have a computer now talking to you, we invented that in the 70s. So we put those together into a machine. You put a page on it, scanned it like it was a Xerox copier, and it would read it out loud. So that's the first time that computer could do that. That was in 76.
I just was dying to know about this thing, because it takes a picture of the whole page. How do you know you're holding it properly over the page and not just like kind of snapping half of one page and half of the other?
Well, you can feel around,
yeah,
right?
It actually had some intelligence to figure out the format of the page, if there are pictures, columns, if it's cutting off half the column, or if the page is crooked.
I think he figured it out, Jim.
But I knew there was a method to it, but I just didn't know how it would work, because you're blind, so you can't see where the words start or what's on the page.
And the book is called The Singularity is Near. Could you please explain that? You sort of started, but where does this all go?
So one key idea that I mentioned is that information technology, like computers, grow in this exponential manner. Exponential means it's doubling every period of time, like every year. That doesn't sound like much, but you keep doubling, and if you double 30 times, you get to 1 billion. And that's not our intuition. Our intuition is that things progress linearly, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 30 steps later, you're at 30. That's the intuition of even very sophisticated people. I've had these debates with Nobel Prize winners. And the reality of information technology is its exponential growth, so things are very surprising. So I saw, for example, the predecessor to the Internet in the early 80s, called the ARPANET, doubling every year, but it only was communicating between a few thousand scientists. So I predicted that in the mid-90s there would be this worldwide network connecting hundreds of millions of people, and people thought that was nuts. But that's the power of exponential growth. If you follow that out, where this is headed, by 2045, we will enhance our own intelligence 1 billion-fold by merging with intelligent computers that we're creating. That's the singularity.
Is the time frame one question somebody had? They said that you're probably right, but they thought you were being a bit optimistic about the time. Do you think that time frame is kind of?
I think it's right
optimistic?
on. First of all, since I've been doing this, these trends have stayed right on course. Some people say, okay, the hardware is growing exponentially, but software is not. But that's not true either. Look at this IBM computer called Watson that's playing Jeopardy, and able to actually figure out subtle metaphors and jokes and puns and deal with all the vagaries of human language at the level of the best human players on the planet. That's, if anything, ahead of schedule. So when I say that by 2029 a computer will be able to have all the facility of human language that humans have, which has been one of my predictions, that looks pretty good in light of this Jeopardy playing computer today.
Now, we were talking earlier before you got here about the fact that we are all individuals. We have some type of strange divine spark in us that makes you, me. And this seems to me to be the at least one thing that cannot be reproduced. You can program a computer to have some sense of independent thought, but I don't think you're ever going to get a computer to be as close to a human, because we all do have this strange individuality.
Well, you're getting at a profound philosophical issue.
I know, I do this all the time.
And it's a good one. It's important, though. In my mind, that spark comes from the pattern that makes you who you are. So your molecules and your cells organized in a certain way that can interact with information, respond to me with a certain personality and set of skills. And ultimately, we can capture that and we can recreate it and we can expand on it. And that will have that spark if it has the pattern.
So that would mean that at some point in history and in time, that a computer will be able to say, hey, get your hands off me, you damn dirty human, and just leave me alone.
They can say that now, and if you play sophisticated...
But mean it. But mean it.
Right. So you can play a video game today and meet characters that...
Like Second Life, which is...
Second
featured
Life
in the movie.
or multiplayer games.
EverQuest
and you
EverQuest and all.
You can meet some character that's human-like that says, get your hands off me. You don't believe it today because it doesn't have all the subtle cues that really convince you it's real. My prediction is in 20 years, they will be so realistic you won't be able to tell them apart from real humans, and we will accept them as having real emotions. And when they say, I'm angry, I'm jealous, you'll believe them, and that those will be real.
Will they be real, or
will they
actually
be angry and jealous?
Great convincing copies.
Right.
Mimics, right.
That's a deep philosophical issue that goes back 2,000 years to play the Platonic dialogue.
But what do you think?
I think it's real if it seems real, but that's my philosophical belief. It's actually not a scientific question. There's no scientific test
That is true.
you can do that would absolutely definitively answer that.
More
But
spiritual.
You know, this is what a phony I am. I just said right, like I knew that there was no scientific test, but I really did. There could be 30 of them, and I would have no idea. I just didn't want to sound dumb.
I'm fascinated with the idea that if a computer did reach a point where it could be angry, it could be sad, it could be jealous, that it would just shut off at some point when you really needed it because it was angry with you. It could literally turn itself off or not perform the functions in which you want it to because it was angry with you.
Well, computers are mastering human emotions. Even this Jeopardy playing computer now has to understand something about human emotions, or you couldn't play that game very well.
Right, because some of the questions are based in
an understanding of human emotion.
Right,
And,
sarcasm,
exactly.
little idiosyncrasies in the way a word is said.
So they're getting there. If you go out 20 years, computers will be millions of times more powerful than they are today. And they really will be very convincing at that time.
I know you said that when you saw a few scientists at colleges communicating with each other through the primitive version of the internet, that you foresaw a large number of people communicating with each other. Did you have any concept that it was going to be what it is now, in that we're trading more than just intellectual property?
Well,
we're trading pornography. We're trading ideas of would seem very radical.
Well, actually, I wrote in my first book, which I wrote in the 80s, when the Soviet Union was going strong, that the Soviet Union would be swept away by this emerging social network.
I called that myself back in the 70s. I really did. I told my friends, I give the Soviet Union another 20 years because information, or the lack thereof, is what keeps their people under their thumb.
Well,
and the second it gets out...
That's very insightful, and that's exactly what happened.
I just didn't write a book.
He didn't say it like that, by the way. He was drunk. He went, the fucking Russians ain't going to last.
Yes, I picked that up.
You were there, Jimmy.
I picked that up at a party with you and stole it from you.
I know. That's what I was getting at.
Well, the same thing is kind of happening with the Middle East with the information that is getting to everybody.
Right.
And,
Well,
and how they're communicating with
social
each other.
networks are very democratizing.
Right.
And now that they're very powerful and everybody in the world is on them, there's 600 million people on Facebook. It's a very powerful political phenomenon. But that happened in that 91 coup against Gorbachev. There was a clandestine social network of primitive fax machines and teletype machines, and everybody was in the know, and the authorities didn't have control of information anymore.
Right.
It's also democratizing in terms of being creative. It used to be you had to be a big organization to do a big project, and now you have a couple of kids at Harvard to create Facebook, a couple of kids with $1,000 laptops create Google.
Yeah.
And
do you think China is going to have to go through a phase where they've been very good at keeping their people in the dark, or at least their masses? They have a certain core group that is very good with business and their communist capitalism.
They're not in the dark. I mean, there are 200 million blogs in China.
But they're very restrictive, the government, on what their people can access.
Actually, if you read some of those blogs, not that you can master 200 million blogs, but
Especially in
they're
Chinese.
very freewheeling. They have to stay away. You don't want to head your post saying my thoughts on Tiananmen Square,
Right.
or what's wrong with Tibet. There's a few issues you want to stay away from.
Otherwise, keep some keywords out of your posts.
Otherwise, they're pretty freewheeling. Basically, they're buying off their people with economic growth.
Right. But at some
so
point,
as long as they can keep up this 10% per year growth, it's kind of keeping the lid on social unrest.
Don't you think at some point the impoverished, which I think make up a majority of China, I believe in the bigger cities, you're getting people that are in on the whole business end and capitalism that's
and those
running
bigger
rampant over
cities
there
are
in China.
attracting people from the rural areas. I think China will move towards democracy. It's hard to predict exactly what the course will be, but I think it's irresistible once you have this communication out there.
Exactly.
The communication is there. It's very pervasive, and the people know what's going on, and it will lead inevitably to some kind of democratization.
You were saying something about, and I've always thought this too. They were going to put like chips, like what's that in people and stuff, and we would eventually integrate with computers. But then you said something I didn't agree with at the end. You said eventually that you think, like I do believe in the cell-sized, just to check for astronauts. When they're traveling, when you're 3 years away from a doctor, you have to have something that will check
Be
your
inside you, constantly
cancer
checking you. Right.
But then you said something about the trees and rocks. And will there ever really be a time where we have these inanimate objects, trees maybe for photosynthesis or whatever, but rocks, will there be a need for them to have any computerization? Because you said that. I didn't agree with that point.
Well, the point is that we're going to turn matter and energy into intelligent computers. I mean, that's actually the natural resource we need to expand our intelligence, is to turn more and more material into intelligent computation. So a rock actually has an enormous amount of computation. There's all these molecules bouncing against each other, and there's a tremendous amount of computation going on in a rock, but it's disorganized and useless today. We will reorganize it into being a useful computer.
How about in Egypt, Jimmy? How about a rock that can go around a corner? Huh? They could use that, right?
Or Iran in a rock.
Hey, I want to get back to the movie Transcendent Man, and you were talking about computers and becoming more human-like, and one of the subjects in the movie was bringing your dad back. You lost your dad when he was 58 years old, and you're convinced that in the future you could actually bring him back, so to speak.
Well, first of all, we will be able to create artificial intelligences that have the personality of people, and even specific people, based on the information we have about them. So we could create an artificial person, let's say, in some artificial environment like Second Life. But unlike Second Life today, it's kind of cartoon-like. It'll be very realistic, and this person will be very realistic and would have the personality of my father, based on what we know about him. So what do we know about him? Well, I have all of his letters, I have all of his music, I have movies and pictures. These future AIs can go inside my brain and extract my memories. We can get his DNA from his gravesite. That's not definitive, but that's a piece of information. And you take all that information and create a person that's consistent with that. Now, is that my father? You can certainly argue that it's not. Mm-hmm. But it actually would be more similar to my father than my father would be if he were alive
and
today.
would it grow and learn and become what your father would have been had he another 10 years? Would he have? Would this?
You'd be creating a person, like my father, and like any other person, would then from that point on grow and evolve and interact with their environment and learn things. And
so it wouldn't just be a stagnant at that age.
Exactly.
And that's what you'd have to deal with. It would actually learn.
Do you think memories can be extracted though? Because we don't know exactly how they're. Is there a way for me to take Opie's memories or your memories and actually see them as you saw them?
Not today, but memories are in the neocortex. That's where we remember things. We don't remember them as flat text like in a book. They're actually these structures where we have a whole bunch of symbols and it forms an idea, and then we give that idea and a symbol, and we take that symbol and use it with other symbols for another idea, and it's organized in hierarchies. That's done in the neocortex, and we actually have a pretty good idea how that works. And there are simulations of portions of the neocortex. Again, this IBM Watson machine is actually based on loosely a functional simulation of the neocortex. It's organizing information in a similar way. So we don't know everything about it. We don't know enough to actually go inside someone's brain now and pull out memories, but we're understanding those principles. I think we will be able to do that in a few decades.
I would like because it's always fascinated me that you can form a picture in your mind. That to me has always been fascinating, that you can shut your eyes or open them, whatever you want, but actually see something in your head. If you think of a tiger, you see it, not through your eyes, but you visually see it.
But you're actually imagining it fresh. If you try to think of a friend, you don't actually have a picture in your mind. You have little clues and features of that person, and then if you try to think about them, your mind will actually fantasize that person's face from the information you remember about them. We don't actually remember things in the detail that we think we do. We have, and we can't access our memories unless they're triggered by something else.
But I would like to be able to tap into that and someday almost print it out or put it to some type of video where you could see what you're thinking and pictures and
it'd be like a combination of Barfly and Lolita.
We have all kinds of things in our brains that we don't even know are there, and we can't access easily unless something triggers them. And there's nothing in our brains that requires all the ideas to be consistent with each other. So people have all these ideas that are actually inconsistent, and there's nothing that in our brains, unless we do critical thinking, that will make sure that there's consistency.
Another thing from the movie that was really fascinating was mortality. Like, you want to live forever, sir.
Oh, who wouldn't?
Well,
but I think most of us...
I'd like that decision in my own hands.
Well, he said he doesn't accept... You said like we have to accept that. You don't accept that.
You don't want to accept that we all have to die. Like, we all learned very early on, well, we only have so much time and we're going to die, but you don't want to accept that. And you think in the future that there's a possibility we don't have to accept that. I mean, and you're hoping it happens before your time is up.
Our philosophies are to celebrate death. It's giving life meaning. It makes time short. But actually, if you consider our visceral reaction to someone dying, it's that it's a great tragedy. And I think that's the right reaction. It's a tremendous loss of knowledge and skill and relationships and love and creativity. That's what's there. And the reality is, whenever we're given the opportunity to extend human life, we do.
Right.
And that's not a new story. Human life expectancy was 1,000 years ago. It was 37 in 1800. Every time there's some advance, there's no controversy. Should we use this new advance for cancer? The only question is, does it really work? And my thesis is that these advances are going to come faster and faster because of this exponential growth. And now that health and medicine is itself an information technology, which it didn't used to be, this is going to go into high gear. And people can wax philosophically all day long that, death is noble and gives meaning to life, and life would be meaningless without it. The reality is, as these advances come faster and faster, we're going to adopt them without controversy.
Right, with physics, and I know very little about physics, obviously.
Nothing.
But I mean, I know the word string theory, and I drop it at parties all the time. Does
that work?
Tremendously well if you want to be alone. Yeah. If you want the dip to yourself, say string theory. Chicks will clear. But
you're going to the wrong party.
Is that when you think of physics and breaking things down, is string theory accurate at all? Or are you not that familiar with it? Because I know very little about it, other than
there's actually dozens of different string theories.
Sure, yeah.
It seems to be the reality seems to be indeterminate at that level, and there are different theories that fit the evidence we have. My thesis doesn't require any assumptions about string theory. It's just based on well-established knowledge about molecules and atoms and how we can compute with molecules, which we're doing already, and just following the kind of progression we see. I mean, you just buy an iPhone today, it's twice as good for half the money as the one 2 years ago. That's a quadrupling of price performance, and that's because we're making parts smaller and smaller, and it's a very predictable phenomenon. So you don't need to get into these vagaries of physics to appreciate that.
But I want to go back to the life expectancy, something that we could grasp. Like, how is that going to grow? Right now, what is the life expectancy of a man? 75, 6, somewhere around there?
It was 37 in 1800. It was 48 in 1900. It's pushing 80 now.
Pushing 80, okay.
All of that progress has been just from a hit or miss process where we just find things that happen to work accidentally without really understanding how they work. Health and medicine is now different. It has now become an information process. We're actually understanding the software of life, which are our genes, and it's not a metaphor to say that those are software programs.
Mm-hmm.
Your fat insulin receptor gene says, hold on to every calorie because maybe your next hunting venture won't go so well. And that was the reality when our genes evolved. I'd like to tell my fat insulin receptor gene, you don't need to do that. I'm going to have food tomorrow.
Fat insulin receptor genes would be great pants for fat people.
So
thanks.
Jesus, Jim.
I'm sorry.
We tried that in animals. We turned that gene off. These animals ate a lot and remained slim. That will be a drug sometime over the next
procedure,
decade.
they call that.
I think it'll be pretty popular. That's just one of the genes we'd like to change.
In 10 years, what will the life expectancy be?
1,000.
And is there a limit to the actual human body where there's no way it could continue?
I think we'll see real advances between 10 and 20 years from now when these things really get into high gear. Exponentials start out slowly, and then when they get to kind of extreme part of the curve, they start developing very quickly. So I think we're going to be adding, in about 15 years from now, we'll be adding more than a year every year to your remaining life expectancy. So it'll start stretching out in front of you. It's not a guarantee of immortality, but it will change to the metaphor of the sands of time running out.
Here's something I got to ask you. You've studied life and a lot of stuff since you were very young. Have you enjoyed life? Do you go out? Have you crashed a car? Have you had a few too many to drink? Have you loved? Have you sacrificed your own personal life to study life?
Well, actually, I mean, I retired when I was 5 and
That
decided I would do what I wanted.
Great 4 years.
Yeah, I struggled with those first 4 years, but so I've been having a good time. I mean, I love to invent with ideas, and I actually majored at MIT not only in computer science but creative writing. So I've done a fair amount.
Gone a little crazy, and have you just kind of,
have you read what I've written?
Off the rails every so often? Maybe partied a little too much, or woke up with somebody that you didn't quite know as you should have.
I went to a party once. Yeah.
Do you remember at MIT when they built a computer to play Bobby Fischer?
He predicted that
in chess.
He predicted the computer beating
Kasparov.
Well, Kasparov beat him in 96, I want to say.
Right.
97. Deep Blue defeated.
Oh yeah, he beat it in
Kasparov.
96, right?
And I predicted that in my first book, which I wrote in the 80s. And I also predicted that when that would happen, that we would then downgrade chess and say, well, chess isn't that big a deal after all.
Yeah, right.
Do you play? I was going to ask you that because you have that kind of mind.
I think chess is too violent a game. It offends me.
Yeah. Oh, really? Jeez.
Yes. How are we going to interface?
Especially when the rook is on the queen and he won't get off. Yeah, I hear you.
How are we going to interface with computers, and when will that happen? Will we actually have stuff in our brain attached to the side? How does that kind of...
Yeah, the keyboard mouse is getting a little old.
Yeah.
The conception in Matrix, where there's this plug in the back of your head, is kind of...
ridiculous.
Yeah.
For
It
now,
could get
anyway.
infected, I think.
Smell.
There'll be little robots the size of blood cells that'll travel in your bloodstream, which sends them everywhere in the body. They'll have computers inside them. They'll be communicating wirelessly to each other, to the internet. They'll interact with our biological neurons. They'll go inside our brain and put our brains on the internet and expand our intelligence through cloud computing. And
they'll have to be inserted. You'll never be organically born with them. They'll have to be inserted at birth.
Inserted, like taking a pill or injected, be like a medication, which will have millions of nanobots in it. They'll augment your immune system. They'll be like white blood cells, only smarter. Like white blood cells don't recognize cancer cells. It thinks it's you, which it is in a way. But these can be much smarter and keep you healthy from inside, and also go in your brain and make you smarter.
Now, you just explained something that's going to take a lot of years, obviously, right?
These scenarios are in the 2030s.
2030s. Okay. What I want to ask, knowing that, what can we look forward to in the next 5 years? We were just talking about how 5 years ago none of us had BlackBerries and iPhones, and we thought, wow, we could text, and look what we've done.
Every
in 5
new
years.
phone you got was like, wow, this is great. And now you look back 5 years and go, what a piece of crap I had.
Yeah.
So over the next 10 years, we're going to move away from these little devices we hold in our hands. Images will be written directly to our retina from our eyeglasses. The electronics will be just somewhere in our belt buckle, and we'll have wireless. We'll be online all the time. Search engines won't wait for you to ask them a question. It'll be listening to your conversation, see that you're getting stuck on something, and there are little pop-ups in your visual field of view
in
helping
5 years.
you out.
Pretty cool.
You look at someone, it'll remind you who they are, and it's their birthday next Tuesday, and we'll be in augmented reality. There's already some very interesting augmented reality apps on the iPhone, but this will become much more intimate. There'll be full immersion virtual reality. People will interact physically and sensually from far apart. We can be someone else in a virtual reality environment.
Do you see anything detrimental as far as, because people even say now with texting and Twitter that we're not communicating with each other, not as personal with each other face to face. Do you see anything detrimental in that?
I think it's pretty personal. If you've spent any time on Facebook, and we just have other ways to communicate. But it's
if you're meeting somebody and it's putting their name and birthday and everything, doesn't that kind of take it off of you to remember those things? And isn't that part of us that we should have to remember who someone is if we care about them and when their birthday is? And it kind of takes the burden off of us. That might have an effect
They were
on.
talking about that when I was in high school about we don't have to do arithmetic anymore, and kids aren't going to learn how to do long division because of all these calculators. But computers are always relieving us at the lower end and freeing us up actually to be more creative. We shouldn't be teaching kids to learn facts and stuffing their minds with facts that'll be on their belt buckle.
God,
anyway, we should learn them to do critical thinking, to be creative, to do their own projects.
When I was in college, I had a computer minor, and I learned all those computer languages. By the time I graduated, all those languages didn't mean anything.
Well, the languages,
I was like, what a waste of time.
No, but you learned some principles of computing and how to think logically and how to break down situations.
Then. Come on, if then.
If then. Remember if then? Sure.
If then's
Who didn't love BASIC?
Pretty
It was
profound.
Fun.
Do you think that
Cobalt? Come on.
Cobalt, Jesus.
Who didn't love
Turtle
that?
Pascal.
It was fun.
with exponential growth, how many years will it take before AT&T is actually a viable phone service?
That's the one pessimistic thing he's got. That will never happen.
I actually heard their CEO recently, and he said this year they're going to turn it around. So, we'll see.
More
thing
importantly,
around.
something we have joked about on this show for so long, the flying car. When? We all thought growing up that we would see a flying car.
That's going to take nanotechnology and sort of micro wings, and so that's 2030s. But we already have driverless cars. Google cars have driven 140,000 miles without human drivers through the cities and towns of California.
I'd rather commute with them around me. That's for
Yeah.
sure. They probably know to get the hell out of the left lane when I'm behind them.
Sighted human drivers haven't done a very good job.
No, they haven't. I think the flying car thing is more a problem with people. It would have to be very automated. You can't give people the freedom for
That much
3
trust.
dimensions when they can't control something in 2.
Well, actually,
Terrible.
there's a lot more space up there. I think
A lot more space for people to screw up.
less
fall out of the
opportunity
sky.
to crash into each other, but it definitely will be computerized.
Yeah.
What about overpopulation, though? Because they've always talked about colonizing. That's why they're looking for moons and all that stuff. With people not having the life expectancy of 150 or whatever it is, when does overpopulation become a problem?
It's not going to become a problem. We're awash in resources. We have 10,000 times more sunlight than we need to meet all of our energy needs. And these new technologies will unlock those resources. Solar energy is growing exponentially. It's doubling every 2 years. It's only 8 doublings for meeting all of our energy needs. We have lots of water. It just happens to be dirty or salinated, but with ultimately very inexpensive energy, we can clean it up. We have the technologies to do that. There are new food technologies. We'll grow meat without animals by cloning muscle tissue. I mean, in each area, these new technologies will provide the resources for an expanded biological population.
You also have you look very healthy. I'm sitting next to you and I'm looking at you very closely, and you look like a very healthy guy. And I know you take a lot of pills.
Well, people think I look pretty good for 95.
You do.
Some people think I don't look a day over 80. It's amazing.
You're a great 95, average 50. Do you think that, what is, I know you have a program that you actually sell.
Well, I've written 3 health books, 2 with a co-author, Terry Grossman, MD. We talk about 3 bridges to radical life extension. And bridge 1 is basically what you can do right now. And there's a lot you can do right now to stop or slow down aging processes. And so it's a long discussion. For example, the cell membrane depletes a certain substance, phosphatidylcholine. That's why the skin in an elderly person becomes rigid and wrinkled, and you can reverse that by supplementing with that substance. So that's an easy one. More difficult one is your arteries get clogged up with plaque that causes heart attacks, but it also causes impotence in men and people, claudication of your limbs, and you can reverse that. It's a little more complicated, but we actually have the knowledge to do that with the right program.
Do you take stuff for all of that?
Yeah, I take 150 pills a day.
Wow.
Is that OCD though? Honestly,
like a
do you have an
chore.
OCD with that? Like, is that because like you save you have everything that your dad had? I imagine you're a bit of a pack rat. Like you said, you're a pack rat. Does that also go into like an OCD type of thing?
Well, it's actually a well thought out program. I mean, I don't. Eventually, I won't have to take these pills. We'll have a few pills that can do what we have to work very hard to do now. But today, these programs are not trivial. If you're healthy and you're in your 20s, there's not a lot you have to do. If you're 50s or 60s, even if you're healthy, these aging processes start to accelerate, and you need to do more. So it's not a one-size-fits-all program. It depends on what your issues are. And I have some genetic issues. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes when I was 35, but I've had no indication of it for 25 years because of this program.
Do you take Cialis? That's my favorite pill. The Cialis and an Allegra D, for the stuffiness.
Yeah, well, we have things to overcome all kinds of disabilities.
They argue about vitamins all the time. A lot of people think they don't do anything for you, and you just kind of crap them out.
Vitamins is not the main thing we advocate, although there's a lot of evidence for vitamin D that really reduces the risk of heart disease and cancer. We could have a long discussion. What people call vitamin E is really not vitamin E. It's one particular substance, alpha tocopherol, and it's not the right form of vitamin E. So this could take up a long discussion. But most of the supplements I take are not particularly vitamins.
Okay, gotcha.
Is it like, say you want to take a bunch of things? They actually just put me on vitamin D because I'm deficient. Yeah, I know. But
everybody is.
Yeah, and I wanted, 2,000 milligrams a day. I don't want anybody to be concerned. And I also have to take, I have very high mercury, so I'm taking these pills that have sulfur, so my urine smells like sulfur.
Too much sushi, huh?
Yeah.
High mercury.
Too much fish.
Very high.
We all have high
It was
mercury.
44, and it's supposed to be 11.
I think you stopped eating thermometers.
And now it's 24. Yeah.
Hey, we
I just wanted to completely stop the discussion with a boring fact about myself.
Congratulations.
Mission accomplished.
Well done.
We also have Barry in the studio, who's the director of this movie, Transcendent Man. You want to explain the movie? Because I don't think we really explained the movie to the people.
Well, it's about the life and ideas of Ray Kurzweil and his articulating of the concept of the singularity.
Right.
So we've kind of framed the ideas with Ray's story, and as you guys brought up earlier, we get into the father and son elements of his relationship with his father, which we thought it would resonate for people, and we followed him around. I mean, we after we hooked up with Ray, we were able to follow him around 5 countries for a couple years, and made the movie.
Yeah. There's a bunch of guys out there that think Ray's a little, he's lost it a little bit.
Well, you have to spend. on the face of it, he makes some claims that seem perhaps outlandish. But when you spend the time and you do the due diligence and you read his book or you just listen to him like you have on the show, I think you'd be hard-pressed to make that claim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because on the outset, you would just take something out of context and be like, that sounds crazy.
Right.
But then when you explain it in context,
right,
it does make sense. And again, it's that old gag that 10 years ago, if you would have said we'd be walking around with what in essence is a communicator from Star Trek,
that's right.
People would say, come on, stop.
Absolutely. I mean, even, just flying from one side of the country to the other. I mean, 100 years ago, it took 3 months to get across the country.
Amazing.
160 years ago.
And what's interesting is, I mean, when I make these predictions, people find them outlandish. I wrote in the 90s about e-books, and people would be reading, we wouldn't be moving away from paper books. People thought that was nuts. But then when these things happen, it just becomes part of everyday reality. It's remarkable how quickly everybody adapts to them.
It's because it's a progression, too. It's not like we go from a big cathode ray tube that was in those TV, that was in those big wood sarcophagus in our houses, to a flat screen on the wall.
Sure.
It was a slow progression.
That's exactly right. And so,
of course it is.
When people express incredulity at lifespans that are, hundreds of years or more, it's not going to happen in, one day there'll be a front page announcement.
Yeah,
because it happens in thousands of little steps. And each step is not controversial, and nobody putting computers in your brains, who's going to allow that? Well, it's happening today. I mean, Parkinson's patients put computers in their brains, and there's no demonstrations or pickets against that.
I think a lot of people, when you heard years ago in the 70s, I remember hearing computers in your home. Why? What would you need them for? Because everybody was, any scientist worth his salt would say, no, there's going to be a time where every home will have a computer. And people would say, why? What do I need this for? But you'd never take into consideration, again, context, that as time goes by, the reason to have a computer comes into play.
Right, exactly.
If you plopped a computer down in front of somebody in the 70s, first of all, it would be very hard to get online. And they just wouldn't know what to do with it.
Right.
There would be really no use for it. So, yeah, I see in 10, 20 years us doing things and having things and using things that now would just seem ridiculous.
It's like 1999, I can remember, 'cause I lived at home until I was 30, as most responsible boys do. But I remember my mother got a Gateway, because that was the big computer then, and you had to C-prompt log on, and it was 14K, I think. And I was playing solitaire on it. I didn't know how to get online.
And you thought it was amazing, right?
But once I started downloading pornography, literally a photo. But you know how the photo would come, a piece of the photo, and then now it's just like
tease. Those computers were
it was awful. Especially if it started feet first.
Gutenberg's first book was the Bible, but then followed a whole sequence of prurient titles.
Right.
So pornography has been a big actual promoter of every media technology.
Isn't that amazing? It's just and we really try to repress that. And it's just, I think we think we're a lot more like Vulcans than we really are. People like to forget that we're humans and we do like certain things, and there's no getting rid of that.
Well, I mean, technology is going to expand our potential in every way, intellectually, essentially.
Yeah.
And certainly it's used today for every kind of human purpose, and it is a double-edged sword too. I mean, there are dangers of these technologies.
Yeah, they Barry, you go into that in the movie, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple guys that with the AI technology, it scares the hell out of them because they don't know what that actually means in the end, where these machines could actually take over humans and destroy themselves in the
world. As Ray
world.
talks about, this comes up in popular culture where movies need a conflict to make it interesting. So you have these dystopian movies like Terminator. But the reality, as Ray articulates, is that there will not be an us or them situation, because the AIs that we're creating currently are going to go inside of us and will evolve together. And there will never be a time where there's going to be AIs more intelligent than me or you. We'll evolve together. So that's really more likely what's going to happen.
Oh, right. Okay. So as we evolve, they'll evolve, but they'll always be at a level below. They'll never.
No, they're not. It's not that they will be beneath us, but my point is that they won't be above us. We'll most likely start evolving together at a certain point here in the near future.
We're going to merge with them. We're creating them as extensions of ourselves, and we're going to literally put them in our bodies and brains.
Do you see at some point an organic computer that will at some point become part of our genetic makeup?
Like the way hair is kind of it doesn't cover the whole body anymore, or your hands get smaller or whatever.
Not exactly. I mean, we're learning from biology how to do things, but then we do them better. Once we can strip away some of the inefficiencies of biology, like we're learning how the brain works, and that's actually the biggest thing that's stimulating AI. But back on this promise versus peril. Look, today we're using biotechnology to program biology away from cancer and heart disease. But at the same time, the same techniques could be used by bioterrorists to create a super weapon. And, these go hand in hand. So some people say, oh, it's too dangerous. Let's not do it. Let's just not go down that road. There's a whole intellectual movement called the relinquishment movement and that's not realistic. That's not going to happen.
I think that's always been the case with every great invention. Has been there has been the potential for every great invention to be used for evil, as they say.
Right, and it's real. The answer, though, is to work on the dangers, and so we can put in a rapid response system where we can deactivate a new biological virus. We do that with software viruses?
I mean, honestly, do you think Alexander Graham Bell ever foresaw somebody picking the phone up, calling a bowling alley, and saying, "Do you have 10-pound balls? Well, how do you walk?" I don't think he ever saw that. The evil part of the phone.
That was actually the first thing he said on the phone. He pranked the person in the next room.
Watson, come quick, I need you. And then he put his leg out and tripped him.
He actually said, "Hey, Watson, go look in the toilet."
Little toilet humor there, sir. I'm sorry. We can't get away from it. That's how we stay young.
Our audience is a little on the lowbrow side, so we got
please.
We got to keep them
lowbrow and high waistline.
Right. Are you inventing anything right now as we sit here? What's your latest invention?
My latest invention is Blio, B-L-I-O. It's an e-reader that runs
It needed the money.
It's a free download, runs on any platform. It's at blio.com. It preserves the original format of the page. Other e-readers throw that away and just give you this text flow. It'll be the exclusive e-reader for Toshiba and HP and Dell computers.
I apologize.
He's still laughing at my immature,
horrid
joke that I made.
He just did a Tyson. I apologize. That's why I'm laughing.
We are. I mean, it's in essence a new type of e-reader.
Right. It's free. Comes with 3 million free books.
Jimmy, 3 million?
Yeah. And we also sell books. That's our business model.
Wow, that's awesome.
You're in a lot of stuff. How many patents do you have?
It's something like 40.
40 good ones. Your quality, not so much quantity.
What seemed like a good idea that just turned out to be...
I was actually going to ask that. What did you predict or want to do that didn't work?
And it was a bust.
Well, one prediction I'd say was wrong is that we would have common driverless cars. So we actually have the technology at some level experimentally, but it's not being used commonly. So that seems to be about 10 years off.
Magnets, right?
Magnets.
They're going to use
magnets in the road.
Magnets on the side of the road, magnets on the back of your car, the front of their car, and
we have
all over the place.
There are cars now driving around, like these Google cars, without drivers.
On regular roads,
on regular roads, just using artificial intelligence and sensors.
They're able to sense...
Autopilot on a plane. I mean, you can do almost everything on the plane without the pilot, right?
Planes fly and land without pilots.
Yeah. Can they not take off without a pilot? There's one thing they can't do without a pilot. Is it take off? I didn't think they could land without a pilot.
No,
they can land without a pilot. They do need the pilot right now for taking off.
Oh.
And the pilot's there to make sure no shenanigans happen. But with
but they're not as good as they were.
ILS and autopilot,
But we watched that. There was a special on the crash of going from Brazil to Brazil to Paris. And they said the pilots are not as equipped to deal with stuff like mid-air stalls because the computers are flying it for them. So they don't have the hands-on that they did 15 years ago.
Yeah, sometimes the feedback that they're getting from the controls are actually giving them the wrong sense of what's happening on the plane. They should just leave it alone and let the autopilot take care of it, which is kind of amazing when you think about it.
Well, computers are doing more than people think. If we turned off all the intelligent computers in the world tomorrow, our whole civilization would grind to a halt.
Oh, anarchy would be great.
I want to get back to Barry as the director of Transcendent Man. Which where is it going to open there, Barry?
Well, we had our premiere last night at the Time Life building. It was a launch of a worldwide tour.
That's where all those hot groupies they were hanging out outside.
The movement has its own followers.
Yeah.
But we'll be in San Jose on the 13th. We'll be in L.A. at the Lumley Royale on the 16th and 17th. And then we'll come back to D.C., Boston, and London. And we're adding dates and cities.
And it's sold out, too, right? It was sold out.
It's selling out.
And Barry, as a film, I'm getting somewhere here. Barry, as a film director, you got your start very early. Very fascinating story. You want to tell these guys? I know, but you might want to tell them.
Well, I was
who you worked for.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to
Spielberg,
be on the set of E.T. the Extraterrestrial with Steven Spielberg at an early enough age to where I wasn't a threat or I wasn't.
Holy shit, you were Elliot.
I was. Well, we played Dungeons and Dragons with Henry Thomas and so on the set but I had lunch with Steven every day in the cafeteria there on the set.
Why were you on the set? Like, how did you?
I trained animals. My parents bought an animal park in 1979, and we trained animals in the off season to be in movies. And they called us in '81 and said there's this movie, and my dad actually didn't want to participate. He had another gig, and I said, no, we got to do this. And so,
what kind of animals were in that movie?
Well, we trained a whole menagerie of animals, but they ended up cutting in only. Was there a raccoon, a deer is actually in the movie, and a rabbit.
Oh, okay.
Is actually in the final cut. But we were there for a whole month and saw the whole. As an impressionable young man, you see all these things happen, and then saw the movie in theaters, and it was a very transcendent film. And at that age, I was it left an indelible impression and wanted.
It made Jimmy cry the other day.
No,
he
it
was just
didn't.
watching E.T. and he got all teary.
Somebody had sprayed. Apparently, a lot of times during sex, pepper spray will go off. You know how it is. Thought no meant yes, and but no, it was. I got a little misty-eyed. I had to leave the room. Because he called Dee Wallace. It was Dee Wallace who starred in that, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was also in the Wolf movie. Which I hated because at the end of it she looked like Chewbacca. What was the werewolf movie Dee Wallace was in? Please, anybody, quickly.
She was in
Why is
Cujo.
Google not in my brain?
She was in Cujo. Is that what you're talking about?
No, Cujo. No, I saw the German version of that with the Lady of the Dog. It was different.
No.
The
See, now, right now, he would be able to. It would know what you were saying.
This is where we go back to Ray.
A computer, and it would access, and you would instantly get the information.
Believe me, if my Google's in my brain right now, it would come back. Who gives a shit? You're boring everyone, Jim. But no, it was
The Howling.
The Howling. There you go.
Yes.
The werewolves were great in The Howling, except for her at the end. She looked like Chewbacca, and she had a tear, which really annoyed me.
Oh, really?
But when E.T. called her mom, I just had to leave the room. I wasn't sad or anything, but my girlfriend was there, and I had to just go do laundry.
She would have crucified you.
She's awful.
Bawling like that.
Yeah, she's awful.
A movie.
Very interesting stuff, though, man.
Oh my God! Yeah, Barry started with Steven Spielberg.
I love it.
Would he remember you, Spielberg?
I would presume so.
Like, have you spoken to him or no?
I have not. But he would remember me. We talked quite a bit, actually. I was the only other young kid on the show. So.
Oh, okay.
Did you have a shot with Drew Barrymore?
What's that?
Did you have a shot with her?
She's probably 5 years old or 6 years old at the time.
Yeah.
So she was even too young for me.
How old were you at the time?
12.
I was 12.
Oh, yeah.
You're starting to grow a little
Hanging around.
hair down there.
Yeah. You're
A
probably
little creepy for everybody.
My
Well,
God, we're
just
trying
being
to have a
honest.
I want to read
conversation
these
here.
health books by Ray. I really do, because I want to start taking more.
Care of yourself after the crumb cake, or
I didn't have
before?
crumb cake.
I know,
I've
not
been
today.
Trying to lose weight and things like that.
Oh,
Why'd you have to go with the small font in the book?
Smart people always do.
because it's a lot of information.
I know, but it just scares me.
What do you want?
The letters are small.
3 feet
Is this
wide, tall,
maybe a book on tape?
I tell people just to read, just get through chapter 1, and even that
And
will
I'm
change
good?
your life. I mean, you just get through the first few chapters and see what happens.
In which book?
And Singularity is Near.
This
That,
isn't.
by the way,
It's not
that-
jokes for the John. Yeah, exactly. What are you doing?
I read a little.
That book, by the way, that you're reading, I think is the single most profound book that's ever been written in human
Singularity.
history. That book, yes.
Singularity is near.
Absolutely.
Jimmy wrote the single most profane book.
Yes, I did. Happy endings.
Happy endings.
Yeah.
It was probably the polar opposite of your book.
Yeah,
Ray.
exactly.
Yes.
It certainly was.
Sounds like it's consistent.
Yeah. It was what it sounds like.
Every yin needs a yang.
Hey,
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
One other thing before we wrap up, we're on Sirius satellite radio, Sirius XM, and you had a hand in this whole thing, I'm hearing? Or you knew the creator?
Gee,
or
thanks.
I'm actually have a
Was you a
close relationship with the founder of Sirius Radio, Martine Rothblatt.
Right.
She was a pioneer in telecommunications and founded Sirius, among other things. She now runs a very successful biotechnology company that I'm on the board of, United Therapeutics.
Oh, how's it looking in the stock? Good. Why don't you give me some insider info? What do you got? What do you
It
got?
looks great.
I was gonna buy some Pfizer the other day, and I didn't, and it went up like $1.50.
Oh,
I'm
boy.
really pissed.
Give us a stock there,
And then I
Ray.
sold
Yeah.
my goddamn. I sold my Nvidia stock, and it went up like another $1.
That was the cover marker, wasn't it?
I actually
no,
bought
it wasn't.
Sirius stock at 15 cents. Not that you care about my stock, but it's now $1.78.
I know.
And I have 2 shares.
You know what happened?
2 whole shares.
I think it was at Barron's came out and said they're looking for a $3 target price on this company.
That's what I always thought. Mel and I talked,
No,
and he
you
goes,
didn't.
look, it's going to go up.
Shut it.
All right.
Before we wrap up, can we tell people how they can access the movie? Or?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, of course you can.
I mean, you can go to transcendentman.com to see the dates, and the film will be available on iTunes March 1st and on DVD May 24th.
It's very, very good.
Very interesting.
You're a very
I
interesting
like-
guy.
I like the movie, Ray.
How many presidents have you met? Because there's footage of Ray with, there's photos with, Edward Kennedy, and there's photos with, I think, Clinton and Obama.
There's a lot of like presidents
Reagan.
and celebrities.
Reagan.
Yeah,
William
Reagan.
Shatner.
The first president
Stevie
I met
Wonder?
was Johnson. That's actually when I did this music composing computer in high school and won a science contest and got to meet the president.
Johnson wanted to know how you could drop the piano on North Vietnam. That's all he cared about.
He talked about peace in our time. So.
Yes, peace in our time. Exactly.
Was he a nice
We're
man?
still working on it.
He is a nice man. He seemed a little sad.
Really?
He got a little kooky after he was in office, right?
Yeah, when he got out, didn't he grow his hair real long and stuff? And kind of.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, he got a little. Being president back then, forget about it. You think now is crazy.
Right.
Jeez, that must have been nuts. What about Reagan? Was he a sincere, kind of nice, all-around
He's
guy?
a great communicator. He's great with
Not
crowds.
anymore.
Ray thought he was an ass.
He was a little distant personally in person.
Really?
Where do you lie politically? Are you a little?
I'm liberal socially. I'm conservative economically.
That's not going hand in hand
Same
these
here.
days very well, is it?
Well, they both have to do with personal liberty and freedom.
See, I like less government in my life. Believe it or not, I am a little more liberal socially than people think I am.
Well, you want to be able to get married. As of right now, it's only Idaho and one other state.
Well, you know how it goes. I am fiscally conservative, but I find it very hard to cross boundaries these days. It's just impossible. Everyone wants to be one or the other. It's very hard to meet in the middle somewhere. We're very polarized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, there actually isn't one political movement that matches my own philosophy.
Libertarian didn't cut it for you? A little too what there?
He likes the money.
I like to be left out of it, but yeah, get your hands out of my goddamn pockets. I'm earning my money. I don't need to be a 55, 45
Well, Ray's a millionaire.
partner with
He's done very well.
United States, and I'm on
Well,
the short end of the stick.
You just insulted him.
We should.
He's a multi.
Oh.
We
Many
should
times
encourage entrepreneurship.
Very good, yes.
And I think tax rates should be low. I think it's part of keeping government out
Don't you
of
think it
people's
keeps
lives.
people working, too? And it gives people the opportunity to use their own capital, and other people would be more apt to invest in new ideas and new technologies if you didn't have to worry that the government was taking half your money. It's terrible.
I mean, raising tax
spouting
rates
off.
doesn't necessarily raise tax revenues to the government. It's just like a company raises its prices isn't going to necessarily get more sales.
Yeah.
It just encourages people to avoid taxes altogether.
What do you think about NASA these days? Also, because I've always been a kid growing up, 70s and watching the moon launches.
Well, the big push now is for privatizing space. I think that's a good idea, fundamentally.
I think it sets us back, though, in order to then build up, because I don't think privatized we're going to be able to get the amount of hardware up there that,
you'd be
that we
surprised.
have been.
Yeah.
Really?
It's actually, I just visited SpaceX just 2 weeks ago, and we're making huge strides in private space. It's for a tenth of the price, for example, per payload, and it's happening right now.
It seems to be more for profit than exploration, though. Like now,
but that's not a bad thing. I mean, once we can create profit in space, I think you'll see a lot more companies going in that direction. A lot more
Richard Branson is doing what they were not able to do, which is just us going up into space.
But would you have
done that?
Would you have been for?
But I support government projects where the investment's too long term for the private sector, like the internet was created by the Department of Defense, their research agency, as just a kind of a long term research project in the 80s. And that's not something that private enterprise would have done.
Well, look at the whole GPS system also is military in nature when it was first made. We never thought, I don't even think the military thought that it was ever going to be used by private citizens on a daily basis. But there it is.
And where do you think GPS is going to go in the near future? I hear there's all sorts of plans,
I don't know.
Plans for it.
Put in the direction.
Yeah, let's
put in a destination, Opie.
What do you think? What do you think that technology turns into? Because right now it's just giving us directions to our long lost aunt's house or something.
Well, it's going to get higher resolution. It's going to be integrated into these intelligent navigation systems that will drive your car for you. Navigation systems are already considering now real-time traffic patterns. It's going to get more intelligent and more precise.
Do you have any civil liberty worries about this type of thing? Putting computer chips or whatever you'd call it in you, and GPS tracking this. Do you have any problem with that morally yourself personally?
Well, privacy is a big issue, but actually the technologies of privacy are outpacing the technologies of invading privacy. I mean, you can use encryption, and people do use personal encryption.
Oh, believe me, I do.
Just gave you a look.
That's staying ahead of decryption, which is technology of breaking privacy. So it's a complicated discussion, but it used to be you could just close the blinds in your bedroom to keep your privacy. Now we have 1,000 virtual windows on our lives.
Yeah. Right.
So it gets more complicated, but I think it's still manageable.
It's amazing that you are on camera, especially in a place like New York City. You're constantly on camera.
Right. Well,
I don't think there's anywhere when you're
walking. They say you're on camera way more than you're not.
Some people like that.
Right. Yeah. It's true. If something does happen,
But people fear the government looking at us. It's like a one-way street right now, but we're starting to peer the other way. So it's when transparency goes both ways. When you have things like WikiLeaks that open up our government, Google actually is showing what the government's censoring, even in the U.S., for example. So as we start to be able to peer both ways, I think people will change their perceptions about what privacy is. And
what are they censoring in the U.S.? Not to interrupt you, but
I don't know. I know that there's even movements to censor certain books. Mark Twain's book was recently they tried to censor it, but Google does keep a running list of exactly what the U.S. government is currently censoring, and they publish it all the time. So it's another democratization of this technology.
But you're right. WikiLeaks does. And there's been a few things I kind of wish they didn't release, just names of people who might be killed. But overall, have they really released anything that was terribly detrimental?
It's really embarrassing. That's, I think, the primary reason that the government got upset. It's more embarrassing than anything else.
Well,
but you can't put that genie back in the bottle, by the way.
There's so much material out there that it's kind of a delayed effect. I mean, Tunisia was a delayed effect of WikiLeaks. And
was it really? Why is that?
And now... Well, because it showed the corruption of the leaders.
Oh, okay.
And then revolt was organized on Facebook, and then that idea inspired a couple of 25-year-olds to start the Egyptian revolution.
Yeah, it really is amazing.
Well, I didn't realize that Tunisia there was a lot of corruption leaked. I didn't know that.
Yeah, people find out that their government is a little, like we all do.
What do you think he's holding in that 256-bit encryption download that he's allowed everybody to take a hold of. And,
and he's going to dole out the key. He's got the doomsday key there just in case.
All right. You guys saw the 60 Minutes the other day on
I did, yeah.
Yeah, it was quite fascinating.
what was it about?
Sure was.
Assange?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did it say?
Hope you didn't see it.
I saw it. I really did.
Well, I think it just revealed him as a very moderate individual, very intelligent, sophisticated
Way
person.
smarter than I thought.
Yes, very smart.
Yeah.
Not just a Budinsky.
Nah, there was highly intelligent.
I wonder what's in that
individual
stupid
there.
file, though. Watch it be really nothing big, like dirty cartoons.
It's somebody drawing with Mac Paint or Windows
Listen.
Paint.
Ray's got to get the hell out of here. We just got the hook.
All right, my God.
Ray Kurzweil.
Talked to him for friggin' hours.
Transcendent Man is the name of the documentary. Once again, Barry, who's the director, how do we see this damn
You can go to transcendentman.com, and it'll show the dates that the film's playing. There's information on how the film, you can watch the film on iTunes. It'll be available on other portals like Netflix and DVD on May 24th, and it'll be touring the country. So, but you can go to transcendentman.com for more information.
Okay, very good. And Ray, thank you, man.
Yes.
My pleasure.
I
Enjoyed
hope you
it.
enjoy this. It's not like the other interviews you do, I'm sure, but
Well,
It was
we
great.
like to have a little
invite
fun.
me back.
all right,
Yes.
we'll have Ray back.
We gotta bring Ray back. We have chicks in the studio.
Oh, my
We
God.
don't want you to think we're a bunch of bores.
Next, next great invention. Come on in and plug it.
Yeah.
We'll do.
At least give us a stock tip.
No, don't say a word.
Something. Give us something.
The SCEC is not going to get on my
Just
ass.
write down
I'm
three.
legit.
Write down 3 letters right now.
Yeah.
Just 3.
Exactly.
3
Ray
letters.
Gecko.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man.
Thank you.
We're gonna start our weekend. You got some, Jimmy?
Just quick plug. February 11th, Club Madrid in Vegas. And let me just plug the Wellmont Theater, Montclair, March 5th. And Wilbur Theater in Boston, March 18th.
Ray's going to be there?
Yes, and Ray will also be working with me. He does a very filthy 25 minutes in front of me. Thursday through Saturday, March 10 through 12, San Francisco, Cobb's Comedy Club.
Very good.
I think Ray's trying not to laugh because he's got,
Ray's been
he's got a
Ray-
reputation, but it comes out a little bit.
Ray's been sitting
Ray's
here
got a naughty
kinda
side.
chuckling, going,
He's not going to tell us about it.
You lower life forms are funny for me to look at.
He's laughing at us the way we laugh when a cat has like a sock on its face.
Exactly.
The Opie and Anthony Show on the virus. Sirius XM.